All right, great. All right, so we are all set up at the palette here. And right before I start, cleaning up all the acrylic supplies that I had, you definitely want to paint in two different times when you have your acrylic paints out. You do not want to accidentally leave them on the palette and squeeze out the white paint as your oil paint. It will just make a huge mess. I know some of my students have done that in the past, asking why is my paint not working? And it's because they've got white acrylic paint out instead of white oil paint. So I very much am very aware, like I'll put all my oil paints away when I'm doing acrylic, and then vice versa, put all the acrylics away. So during the break, I hid all my acrylics for myself so I don't accidentally make that mistake. This is the mister that I'd been using for years anytime I did water stuff, water mixable or water paint. And it's fine. It's a nice mister, but it definitely shoots out big drops with a combination of mist, and you get, a very uneven. So I went and got a mister bottle, which is pretty amazing. It you just hold it down and it does mist for kind of a long time, but it shoots out very fine mist. It's great for keeping your palette or your paints wet. But it also, if you want to have soft edges, and I'll show you in the other painting because it has soft edges in the clouds, I was able to just hit it, scrub, hit it, kind of soften those areas out. So if you are wanting to do more finished off work with your acrylic paints, if you're not just doing it to get your values and design in, then, I think this was $7 or $8. But I think it'll definitely pay dividends, and I can retire this, or it can go in water plants or something. Getting those out of the way so don't accidentally miss an oil painting with water. Another thing I want to show you so I can clean up my space a little bit is different mediums that you can use for glazing. I know that will be an ask. Today I'm going to be glazing only using paint thinner, only using the Gamblin Gamsol. And that's because I'm going to want to build up my oil paint on top of that. So I want a nice ground. So what you're going to see is I'm going to mix the Gamsol with whatever color I make, and I'm going to put it on. And then I'm going to most likely be taking my paper towel and moving it around. So it's kind of like scrubbing it in a little bit. It's almost going to be like glazing / staining the canvas, right? What that will allow is it will tack up, start to dry, and it will adhere to this acrylic paint very quickly. So I'll be able to instantly go in and start to add thicker paint. I mean, and I do mean instantly, like I'll just be able to continue working. So most people think of glazing as at the very end of the painting process. When you want to kind of harmonize your colors, you can just go and glaze the entire surface, and all the colors all of a sudden lean towards that color. And that's great. And I will use that as well. And that may be an instance where I want to mix mediums in. I did grab the cold wax medium. I would probably preserve that for my final layers or do the entire painting with the cold wax medium. It was said that, can't really see there it is. It was said that the Gamsol melts the wax, which is very true, but I actually use that to my advantage because I don't want to paint with this really thick, sticky. It's like painting with real thick honey. So a little bit of Gamsol into the cold wax really makes it play nicely. You just don't want too much. I think you can mix up to about 25% Gamsol to cold wax. Cold wax can also be used as a varnish. So if your painting's fully dry, you can again mix a tiny bit of the Gamsol into your cold wax and varnish your painting. Just know that it dries more matte, meaning not shiny, right? So that is something you can do. It's kind of nice if you want kind of a more matte finish to your painting. Yeah, so cold wax is a lot of fun to play with and experiment with. I use it more in some of the abstracts my daughter and I were doing together. I've only done one large scale 30 by 40 with cold wax, and I had a great time with it. I just used it the entire time, you know, the whole, every stage. Oh, and then the other thing is, if you get the stuff to varnish your painting from Gamblin, and it's like, if you get the really shiny one, which is beautiful, makes your paints really come alive, but it can be very, very shiny. You can actually mix cold wax medium up to, again, 25% cold wax medium with your varnish to make your varnish more matte. So that's another way. You just, you know, put a couple of dollops together and really, really shake it, or really, really mix it till it's fully dissolved, and varnish then. And it's kind of interesting. You'll see a couple of days later, if you have extra varnish, they'll separate back out a little bit. So just be aware of that. Neo Miguel. This is Robert Gamblin's favorite medium. It's a very thick painting medium. It is great for if you want to do glazing and stuff, and you have a very textured, let's say you painted like Monet, very textural, a lot of thick brush work. This is a good glazing medium for getting into those crevices and kind of that. It's also, it's kind of a nice and silky one. I don't know why I don't use it more often. It's a nice medium, and you can use it basically straight from here.
Michael, are you showing these products? Because all we're seeing is your two paintings. Excuse me, your one painting.
I'm seeing it. I have speaker view selected in my box.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I'm seeing,
fine.
also seeing it. I can see it.
I've got speaker view also, but it's not showing up at all.
Interesting. I don't know why that would be.
I wonder if it's because I pinned you.
You pinned me, so maybe it's stuck where it was. I don't know.
Well, I don't even see you at all on my list. Huh.
I don't see you, Michael. I just see your palette of colors and then the
Yeah,
cattail painting.
But then Michael also just popped in for a moment there when he was looking.
Yes, I saw you then too. But Kathleen, you're not seeing what we're seeing?
So try unpinning me really quickly, because I have it.
well, I can't even find you.
Oops, I just spotlighted Laura. Remove spotlight. So
Yeah,
I think,
I don't even have you on my list, my view list. That's weird.
Do you
Yeah.
have full screen selected?
You know, it's possible that when Michael cycled the camera, it broke the connection of him to
yeah,
the Zoom
you may
session.
need to sign out and sign back in, unfortunately, really quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, you want me to do that? Sign out and sign back
Yeah,
in?
we'll test that real quick. I think that's going to be easier than me. Because yeah, everybody else is seeing the painting and the palette, right? And was seeing my delicate hands earlier, right?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Cool. Sorry, Kathleen. And really quickly, here is my reference for this painting. Again, a photo I took on an early morning bike ride. And I shot the photo through my sunglasses. So that's how I get this nice sepia tone that I love. All
Will you
right.
post that?
What's that?
You'll post that reference?
If I can find it online. This is a really old print I've had around for years, and I just found it when I was going through looking for stuff to paint.
Okay, never mind.
I don't even know if it's on my computer, but I will try to find it. I actually was trying to find it last night when I sent out that email. Anyways, let's continue on with mediums for glazing. The Galkid gel is my preferred one. That's the one I'm just comfortable with and use a lot. I like the Galkid medium, but I like the gel even more because I can make it thick or thin. So, and it travels really well, not in a jar, and it doesn't dry because of the tube. So this is my primary medium of choice.
Are What kind of,
What's that?
Is there both solvent-free and regular? Are there two different kinds that come in a tube like that?
Yeah, here's the solvent-free. So generally, as far as I know, the solvent-free has a blue label, the Galkit gel, and it just says solvent-free gel versus Galkit gel. And the solvent-free gel is fantastic as well, very silky and smooth, doesn't have an odor, doesn't do anything to your hands really. It's nice. It does not speed up drying time as far as I've been able to tell. So if you want a little bit of a longer drying time, the solvent gel is great. Also, it just doesn't have the chemicals. So really nice for a lot of people. I have a number of tubes of this and we'll use it from time to time. But yeah, just in all honesty, the Galkit gel has definitely been my go-to over the last year.
what kind of sheen does the Galkit gel dry with?
Pretty shiny. So
Okay.
I will oftentimes knock it down with a little bit of the Gamsol, makes it a little runnier. And so I may even do that here. I can actually mix a little bit of Galkit gel and a little bit of Gamsol to make my medium for glazing. But today I'm just going to keep it super simple. I'm just going to use the Gamsol paint thinner, just so you know, but these are options. And as I'm building up the painting, I may go to some of the mediums. But in the beginning, I like to keep it medium free, just again, because it creates kind of a slick surface that I don't want. All right, really quickly to the colors. I've got a titanium white. I've got Hansa yellow medium, which is a semi-transparent yellow. Indian yellow, which is a very warm, very transparent yellow. Quinacridone red. I'm actually contemplating using the quinacridone magenta in the next painting. We'll talk a little bit about color choices in the next painting. This one's going to be very tonal, very warm and earthy. The next one I thought I should make more colorful. Over here I got ultramarine blue and manganese blue hue.
Did you say that was quinacridone?
Quinacridone red, ultramarine blue, manganese hue. Going down, I've got transparent earth red. This is a fast matte, simply just because I couldn't find, I may be out of fast matte earth red. I love using the earth red as my undercolor, so it's going to work fine and it'll speed up all the paints that it touches, the drying time. It is a little bit more sandy or gritty feeling than normal oils. So that will be a little bit, and it does dry more matte. I mean, it's literally in the name. So it won't be as shiny, but that's also good because knowing that I'm going to apply more paint on top of this, it actually will create a nicer ground for the paint that's to come. And then over here, trying to slip away is some Payne's Gray. That is actually a Payne's Gray 1980, meaning that it is more transparent than the normal brand, the normal Gamblin. Let's see what it says on the back here, if it does. Yeah, it actually says that it's transparent, where I think the normal Payne's Gray is not considered transparent. I can look really quick. Oh, no, they both are. Okay. So Payne's Gray is considered transparent. So I can use that to knock down or darken some colors if I want, with the knowledge that it's going to make colors go a bit bluer.
Did you know that Payne's Gray has ultramarine blue in it?
It really feels like it does.
Michael, did you mention phthalo turquoise earlier? I don't know.
Yeah, I have it. I haven't squeezed it out. Let's go ahead and squeeze it out just so we can see it. I thought it might be fun to do the next painting using colors maybe I don't normally use, such as, it looks really thick there. I mean, it is thick. It looks very dark there in its thick form, but when I thin it out, it just is, it's so beautiful. And with white, it's really just a a gorgeous color. But I think of it more as in water and stuff like that, but it might be fun to experiment with it in the sky. It also, with the quinacridone, makes beautiful purples. And I was thinking the next painting might be really fun to make purple. I don't do purple paintings very often. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, you guys can't even see that. So I'm just going to leave the reference down below. I'm not even going to be using it too much. It's going to be kind of Indian yellow, earth red, and then kind of darker ultramarine blue towards the edges. All right, so that's how we'll start. We'll see what that does for us. So I'm just going to take a tiny bit of paint thinner here. Put it on my palette. It's kind of dripping away. I'm going to grab some of that Indian yellow. Whew. All right, ready or not, here we go. Should I move it over a little more? Does that help make it more visible?
Yes, that's good.
All right. So far, the acrylic paint seems to be staying.
This is where you have to have no fear.
Yeah, it's very true. And I am filled with fear, which you got to quickly transfer in your brain and say, I am not scared, I'm excited. It's the same feeling biochemically and neurally. It's the same feeling, fear and excitement. So you can literally just tell yourself, not scared, excited. A little more paint thinner. So the fast mat definitely wants to slow down. It's got a drag to the paint. So just kind of interesting to, be witness to and be aware of. And this is a very indelicate way of doing glazing. You could definitely finesse this a lot more if you wanted. I'm going to go ahead and just go for it and bring in some of that ultramarine blue along the periphery. Again, when it mixes with the brown, it gets really dark. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more Indian yellow in here, a little more paint. All right, beautiful, right? We're going to go ahead and start the auctioning at the bid at, all right. Here we go. Now I'm just going to take my paper towel and begin wiping off the yellow. The red is my contact color, right? Between the earth red is my contact between my blue and my yellow. If my yellow touches my blue too much, it's going to go green, which I don't want. So I'm starting with my yellow, and then I'm going to get to my reds, my earth reds. The paper towel works in a couple ways. Partly it's absorbing a lot of that paint thinner up, sucking up that I'm gonna go ahead and go back again to the yellow. And this time I'm gonna go ahead and let my paper towels get out towards the blues that are out on the periphery. All right, if you guys weren't watching this, I'd probably kind of wipe it back down quite a bit because I think I put too much paint thinner. It's really wanting to completely remove, or what I would do is let it sit for a minute or two to kind of start to suck into the canvas. I'm just gonna instead just grab a clean paper towel. So it's gonna be a very subtle coloring.
Not to be a mom, but gloves.
Ha, right here beside me. Thanks. I'll take all the moms I can get to keep me alive.
Of course, remember, this is the man who drank paint thinner.
Yeah, there's no saving me. Either that or I have superpowers now.
This is being recorded.
Kids at home watching this, do not drink paint thinner. Perfect. So there we go. It's beginning to kind of feel like it's starting to take some shape. If I'm pushing very delicately with the paper towel, very softly, I could push harder, and I will here in a second as we get back towards the sun. My first question was, is the acrylic painting dry enough? Is it going to stay down? So yes, it seems to be dry and allowing the paint to do its thing. I'm going to bring back in a little more French or a little more ultramarine into the corners just because I want to keep that getting dark. So I'm just putting on a little bit of paint, basically. Putting it on quite thin and then moving it around with my paper towel, or I could do it with a soft brush, whatever tool I thought I wanted to use. This is a pretty brutal brush, being the shop brush. Not very delicate, not very. So this might be a good opportunity for me to pick up maybe a synthetic bristle brush, a little softer. I'm just kind of pushing and sculpting a little bit. Again, I'm going to start back at the sun. I got hopefully a clean spot on the paper towel. This time I'm going to go ahead and push just a little bit harder. Do the same down here. Well, I got kind of a cleaner towel. I'll be going back over these areas with opaque, warm paint, but letting some of the glow that's happening show through. So this painting, kind of the mood and the theme will be more somber, more reflective, just kind of slightly more lonely. If I were to put kind of a different kind of emotional feel to it. A lot of times I'll kind of take the paper towel in the direction of the thing that I'm painting, the object. Sorry, guys. I'll just stop that. All right, now I'm gonna go through and I'm actually gonna pull back up quite a bit of paint in the light areas. And hopefully, and then I will use the paper towel also to carve out some of these shapes. And what will hopefully be left is kind of this little bit of area of glazed in color, a little stronger just around the grasses, the tops of the trees, and whatnot.
Is this canvas or board?
This is a board. Yeah, with canvas, you're definitely going to get the texture of the canvas at times. So I could let it, stay dark if I wanted. I can keep going back in and lightening areas. I can cover as much of this later as I want with, impasto thicker paint. Or, if it's nice and done, I could just say, you know what, this is how I want it. This is what I like. But I rarely do this technique at this stage in the painting and leave it. I usually will come back in and put paint across it.
But those grasses are so nice.
Yeah, you see that little bit of kind of warmth kind of around it, just by kind of coming through and cleaning just a touch. And it's kind of how our eye sees, light and stuff. When you're not looking directly at a thing, kind of takes on this kind of soft edge. So what do you think, Deb? Is it still scary?
No, it's really, it's moody. It's really, I like it.
Yeah, and that's by the color. So we'll see, hopefully, in the next version, if we didn't want it to have that moodiness. I mean, the whole photo that I'm using is quite moody. It really, I heard somebody describe Ludovico Einaudí's music that I like so much as being alone, but not being lonely. And I just thought, that is an interesting way to say it. Like, it's like being alone, but being glad you are. Like you have that time to be quiet and reflect. And, you know, it's like, I actually wrote a note, like, you know, I have a little list of things like descriptors that people use when they talk about my work. And it's kind of like, is that the descriptor that I want? Or, you know, what am I doing wrong? Or yeah, that's what I want to follow and kind of pursue in my work more. And I just love that description. So if you ever want to give me a compliment, you know, maybe a couple of weeks from now where I've forgotten what I told you, just say, it's like being alone, but not lonely.
Solitude.
Yeah, and I can just keep finessing it. But, you know, my intention is to add, you know, thicker paint and get into this sky. There's a fog bank at up to about this level on the painting. And then the sun is just rising over the fog bank and all of a sudden breaking through, illuminating down here. These grasses, and I could probably do it now. Let me find a delicate brush that I can make marks with. These grasses, I could go maybe a little quinacridone red and a little bit of Indian yellow and mix a really warm color, because where the light is coming through, these grasses would be getting blasted away, really hard to see. So after I painted the sun, I would probably, you know, in the reflection of the sun, I would probably come through and really lighten and really warm these up. I don't want to do it too much now because I'm going to be painting a big area behind it. But I can come through and I can keep warming up. Maybe I'll just kind of brush some of that in and then brush it back away so that it just warms up these grasses again that have the reflection right behind them. So they're just really kind of, again, getting blasted by the light. It's, you know, where you're kind of squinting down when you're looking at a light reflection in the water, and the grasses that are, or the figure or whatever it is that's in front will kind of get obliterated a little bit. The edges, well, I went ahead and painted them in just so I would know where they are, but I will be painting them out considerably. I can just warm that area up. Do the same thing kind of on the top of the trees. This isn't in the photo because the photo is almost like a sepia tone black and white. Just rip off a little piece of my paper towel so I have a little more control with it. So it's kind of glazing, it's kind of scumbling because now the paint's quite dry. I've kind of gone through and pulled out most of the paint thinner with the paper towel. So now it's, you know, it has a scratchier feel to it. And what I think I will do is actually set this aside and get to the other one. And that way these paints will have a second to kind of start to set up a little bit. And I will be able to come back in with opaque paint over the top in that amount of time. I'm going to go ahead and put some yellow on the sides here and a little bit of yellow and red around the sides here, just a hint of it. The strongest color in reflections is generally right on the edge of the reflection itself. Meaning when it's a really strong light source. you can see how even if this is ugly at this stage, like it's kind of weird looking and stuff, I'm giving myself so much good information when I come back in with opaque paint, or actually, actually begin to paint. Not right now, I've done the design, the values, and now I'm just kind of giving myself a base color, kind of like if we had tinted the canvas, right? The other thing, and I could be completely wrong, I haven't taken a lot of classes from a lot of people, but I don't know many people that do this where they kind of have like yellow, red, blue, all within the same thing. But I think that's something that people are missing. And this could be kind of that gradient of colors, gradient of temperatures within a painting that you can do with glazing. And you can do really soft, very naturalistic gradients. So does it have that feeling like here's the light source, kind of warmer, and then reflecting down here? I know it's not as bright as it or light as it could be.
We kind of lost I can't really see the sun in the TV on the computer monitor, but I'm sure it's up there.
It's up there.
On the ultramarine blue on the right, foreground bottom,
What's that?
on the right foreground bottom where you're making the vignette.
Yeah, the right foreground bottom.
Yeah, that greenish, is that like a ultramarine blue you put on top of the yellow, Indian yellow, or?
Yeah, and because of the anywhere the Indian yellow goes over that black because of the acrylic paint, it also wants to go kind of greenish. It's even happening in the sky a little bit. It's kind of hard to see on the monitor. I mean, thank goodness for that earth red because it kind of alleviates some of that. But
if you were to have let it dry a little bit more before you put the ultramarine blue, would it, I guess it might not have been green, or is it still going to be because it's transparent on top of transparent? It's going to.
Yeah, it would be green. I would want to use my
green.
earth red mixed in with the green will neutralize that and just go to darker.
Will you end up putting in that atmosphere you talked about?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot I want to do to this. So the next thing I'm going to talk about in class, actually, and besides glazing, is color in atmospheric perspective. So I'll talk a little bit about it here, but it's going to show up more in the next one. All right, so here for anybody who's writing notes, get your pen out, and I'm going to grab another sip of coffee, stepping back, seeing how this looks. It's quite dark, but that's great because it's easier for me to paint from dark to light. Right, big to small, thin to thick, dark to light. All those things are happening for me here. As I know, I will continue to build up this painting. Yeah, and I see my horizon, my bottoms of these are all wonky and weird, but there is going to be a bunch of fog bank back there and everything else. See if we can actually see. Again, it's a really old, not good photo, but I like the simplicity of it. I like a lot of it. So anyways, color and atmospheric perspective, and we'll talk about it in this painting. Again, it'll show up more in the next one. But in the foreground, what we're going to think about in landscape painting is three areas of space. We've got our foreground, and that could include the water that's closest to us. Our midground, right? It could be trees growing here. Maybe there's some grasses further back, the midground. And then our background, that could be these trees. It could be the sky. It could be, well, if there was a mountain or anything back there, right? So in the foreground, you have your widest range of values and your widest range of contrast. Okay. So as things come closer, the contrast difference gets more extreme, right? You guys are gonna all be able to go outside and see this very easily if you can see a little bit of distance. So in the grasses that are up close, I'd be able to see the lights in the grasses, the darks in the grasses, the in-between values in the grasses, and the difference, you know, when I come back in and paint some of these lights, even though they're all kind of in shadow because they're all backlit, but I can see the differences. If there was a bunch of grasses back here, I wouldn't see those same differences in the values. I would see them much closer together. So yeah, and you can see a lot of more of the half ranges of colors. And also the colors are, the range of colors is also higher in the foreground. It's going to show up much more in the next painting we're going to be demoing. And there's also going to be a bigger contrast of warm and cool temperatures in the foreground. All right. If we get back to the medium range, the middle ground, the values will kind of shift towards like a light to medium or a medium to dark, which is kind of what we have going on here. The ranges simplify, like we're not seeing all the different deviations. Well, I'll bring some of it out in the tops of trees and things that would be going on here, a little bit of a, you know, ground plane here and here, but it's going to be very subtle compared to the strength of the values shifts that would be happening within the foreground. And then when you get to the background, again, imagine if there was a mountain, or, you know, maybe we can think of these trees way back here. It's a very, very low range of contrast between things. So, you know, the trees back here will appear much more flat. If I do have kind of a light and shadow patterning at all, those values are much closer together. So up forward, if this was the lights and this is the dark, I could have a full range of values. In the middle, the values get a little bit closer, right? You know, and it could go towards the darks, it could go towards the lights, it can go whichever way, but your values are getting closer together. You just don't have that extreme range as you do down here. And then as we get to the far, again, if imagine a hill or these trees way back here, the value range is getting much, much closer. Typically also, as things recede into space, they are going to get bluer, purpler, and cooler and lighter in value. And what I like to think about is the areas within the shadows. So my darks in the shadows in my foreground can be really dark. I could even have nice warm shadows up front, which will really bring these forward, these grasses forward. Then as I go back to my mid-ground, this line of trees, my darks are going to be less dark than they are in here within the shadows. And my brights, my lights will probably be less light as they are here. So the values come closer together. The color range comes closer together. The temperature shifts come closer together. And then as we get way back here, they really can almost become right beside each other. Again, the values, the colors, and the temperatures all start to come together. So if you think about when you're driving and you can see, you know, mountains in the far distance, you no longer see like all the highlights on the trees and everything else. It all just becomes one big form and generally kind of blued or grayed down, right? You think the blue mountains off in the distance. Does that make sense, you guys? That is a super important tool, and it's one of those, of course, like I already knew that. I've been living on this planet and observing nature, but it's amazing how as painters we let that kind of basic knowledge get away from us and we forget, and all of a sudden we have something in the background that's really, really dark, or we have, high contrast far away. And unless it's done very purposefully for like, this is the focal point, or, I'm really trying to draw your eye back there, it looks off. Also, I often see people put like very, very warm colors far off, and those colors will want to come forward. So, you can do it, but be aware of what it's doing. All right, so know the rules so you can break the rules, right? All right, I've got the other painting. Any questions or anything about this one? And again, it's just in progress. But I do like where I got going on. It's got kind of a nice feel to it so far. The great thing is too, I could simply take my paper towel, dip it in paint thinner, and wipe down the whole thing, and I'm basically back to first step.
You want us to do one like that for homework?
Like this, or like the other one we're gonna do. If you want more color.
So one or both, huh?
So yeah, if you want to do a more tonalist one, that's fine. If you would rather do one that's a little more drama, a little more exciting, a little more maybe happy, a little more fiesta, a little bit more siesta.
But I don't know about your description of the other one, less happy. I mean, tonal paintings, it's like being alone without being lonely.
There you go. Yeah, no, I like that. I mean, that's why I paint so many of them is, as much as I seem like I like people, I sure like being alone as well.
I like that. I like that descriptor.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool.
We're not seeing the very bottom right corner.
How's that?
There you go.
Cool. And I can move the camera a little further away. So you can see I really came in and lightened the sky, adding white to that. Hopefully it's very dry. I hit it with a hairdryer, and then this whole time we've been working on the other one. I've had it on a fan in the other studio. So I'm hoping it's really dry. A little bit of an experiment to see if I can get into glazing within an hour of painting the surface. I hate to say it, but I need to go grab another glass of water. I'm very thirsty. So give me just a couple minutes here. Why don't you guys decide what colors you would like? And if we would like to kind of have an overall kind of purple with different areas. I was thinking that the light would be coming from the back forward, but why don't you guys decide? We could have side light, we can have backlight, we could have front light, we could have top light, and kind of we can make it a purplish painting. We could have blue skies, green grasses, whatever you want. You guys figure it out and we'll do it. But try to make it sellable because I got to get some paintings done.
I vote backlight.
I do love the backlight. It's hard enough trying to make those decisions for one's own paintings, but then trying to make them for Michael's, sheesh.
But it already looks backlit to me, so that would be the way to stay.
Although, if you notice, the foreground has those bright colored weeds sticking up.
That
I guess
could
those
still
just
come from the backlight, couldn't it?
Yeah, they'll just be sort of translucent, which makes perfect sense.
Looks to me like the light could be coming from the right.
It sure could. I agree.
Maybe backlit, but slightly right of center.
There you go. That sounds perfect.
Like 2 o'clock or something.
Yeah, Michael, there.
Yeah. Okay. So backlit, what color scheme?
But we were saying backlit from the right, sort of, so that.
So light's kind of coming.
Well,
Yeah.
looking at your reflection there.
I would like to see cool colors because most of the time you paint warm colors.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was really kind of purpley mauvey colors. I'm liking this turquoise. So we could see what kind of turquoise at the top and the bottom with kind of going down towards more mauvey purples, getting a little warmer
Right.
towards the light, more pink maybe here. Yeah, that way our clouds can be kind of purplish. We could have a kind of a light turquoise or, you know, turquoisey sky and turquoise down here. We can bring some of that turquoise into the shadow areas.
Yes.
All right, we are experimenting together because I've never used this color combination. But
What's the turquoise color again?
What's that?
The name of the turquoise?
Phthalo turquoise. And then it says mixture at the bottom of that. Phthalo turquoise mixture. Let me grab color wheel real quick. So it will be a little bit more in line with this color wheel, kind of more of almost CMYK, except for we're using a very transparent version, and you can see it's very dark, but as it gets lighter, it goes towards this color. So it'll be like a transparent CMYK. So I'm gonna start, man, itchy throat. I'm going to start with my quinacridone red along the horizon and into here. And I'll bring that quinacridone kind of into this area. Then it's going to get more purple, mix a little bit of mixture of that phthalo turquoise, and then more phthalo turquoise as we get further away. And I can also bring some of that phthalo turquoise into the shadowing. And we will see where we're at with that. All right, now I'm scared, Deb. I've gone past excitement. I got to get back to excitement.
I'm scared too. I don't know how you're going to do the shadows with turquoise. I got to see that.
Well, it's really transparent. I'm hoping that helps so that those darks that are there.
If it turns out too psychedelic wild looking, you can always tone it back down.
100%. Yep. 100%.
I mean, you could. We might not be able to, but you can.
Bam.
Or maybe you'll find a new audience.
Yeah. The psychedelic landscape lovers.
Yeah, I'm getting real scared on this one.
Yeah. As well, you should.
I love it already.
This is where you're really glad you're not getting that phthalo all over your fingers.
Yeah. No, this is a phthalo turquoise, so it's going to be, yeah, you're right. It's truly so crazy that I can hardly see what I'm doing. Like my brain is like, I don't know what I'm looking at right now. So I'm guessing it's double when you're looking at a little screen. Oh my goodness, what have you guys done?
I have confidence you'll make it work.
Okay, thank you.
But now at least it's fully an oil painting.
It is now an oil painting. That is true.
That was great. Who said that?
Woo!
Michelle.
That's
All right,
good.
yeah, my heart rate is up. That means I'm doing something out of my comfort zone, which is how we, one of the ways we can learn and improve. I'm just gonna let this sit for about 20 seconds. It's kind of soaking into the paint underneath it. And then I'm gonna quickly remove it because it's so crazy. And start lifting. I'll be starting with the red, going out towards the purples, and then getting into the blues.
Well, the blue just looks like indigo. It doesn't look like turquoise, really.
Yeah, that purple really knocked it back. One of my favorite blues to paint with is actually phthalo green and quinacridone red mixed together is this beautiful, beautiful neutral blue.
Those, in fact, are the ingredients in chromatic black.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. It's just not an even mixture. You would mix to taste, I guess.
Was that Lynn that said that? About chromatic black?
No, that was Laura, your pigment
Laura.
consultation for the morning.
Hi there. Have you had art training? Because you seem to know a lot about color.
Yes, I've taken a lot of classes, and I did think I was going to be an artist when I was very young. So, but then I got a real job, and that took up the rest of my life. And now,
Life's not over yet.
Yeah, got addicted to
true,
painting, huh?
absolutely true.
And you are an artist.
Well, thank you.
An incredible one.
You are too kind. And of course, everything always looks better on a backlit screen. So,
I mean, that looks kind of nocturnish.
Sure does. Yeah, maybe the sun is just set.
You name it Afterglow.
There you go.
Is that staining the clouds up there? Do I remember you talking about clouds, right?
Yep, it's definitely stained the clouds. And again, I'm not pushing so hard with the paper towels. Right now I'm still just kind of absorbing that paint thinner that's in the mixed with the paint.
Some of the white in there looks peachy already.
Yeah, that real transparent nature of the paint really starts to come in pretty quick.
Michael, if you were imagining this morning instead of evening, is there anything different you would do, or just you're in your own mind what it would be?
I picture mornings as being cooler colors, and evenings as warmer colors.
Okay.
But that's kind of, I mean, it's not always like that, but it definitely, there's all that atmosphere, that cool water atmosphere that happens over the night. And then in the morning when the sun's rising, you got the evaporation and all these things. Sunrises just typically feel like cooler colors, kind of like what we got going on here. Whereas sunsets definitely often will have that kind of golden hue to them.
I
You know,
get
you
it.
don't really hear sunrises called the golden hour.
Mm.
So this is sailors take warning, huh?
Yeah. What did you call it?
It's
Red
that little
sky.
rhyme. It was red skies in morning, sailors take warning, because you're gonna have stormy weather that day.
Yeah. Red sky at night, sailors delight.
Yeah, I remember one time when we were in Greece, staying out near the Mediterranean and looking forward to eating a whole bunch of fish, and there just wasn't any. And they were saying it. They had a saying like that, like, yeah, it's just the fish are gone. They're not there right now. And they were saying something about the colors of the skies and stuff. Or maybe they just weren't going out to get them because they were scared of storms. I don't know. But all we got to eat was a bunch
I was
of,
in the Greek islands 15 years ago and it was the same thing. They didn't have enough fish for the restaurant.
yeah, you just end up eating rehydrated squid.
I can definitely see some of the turquoise in the lower reflection.
Yeah.
Well, you're definitely selling me on painting on the board as opposed to canvas, because I love the way you can get all the variations in the glaze there.
Yeah, you don't see the little threads coming through.
Right. I mean, the canvas really captures those saturated pigment colors. Once they go on, it's really hard.
It soaks it up more too, faster.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, but the reason I choose the type of gesso I choose is because it is semi-absorbent compared to some others that I've had that are much more crystalline and slick. And another reason I don't like oil primed canvas that much is because it's very slick. The paint doesn't absorb in, so you don't get this kind of staining that I like.
Right.
A lot of people are like, when they, you know, I paint with them, they're like, why do you paint? Why don't you, you're a professional, why aren't you painting on oil primed linen? You know, and it just doesn't do what I want it to do. It maybe would be able to, but I also don't experiment with it as much. And I kind of am happy because these are so much cheaper than linen. You know, it's quite expensive. So I'm just kind of dragging little bits of this red, you know, I'm picking it up down here. And then while I've got it on there, I'm just kind of taking it up into the clouds a little bit, just to add a little bit of color. So it's that gradient of pink kind of going up. You know, if I wanted to, I could come back in and add pink into these sky clouds, but I kind of like the fact that they're there, but they're not screaming for attention too much.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Very subtle. All right, good job, whoever chose these colors. I should leave
Excuse
that.
me, Michael, what kind of gesso, what brand do you use?
Liquitex.
Okay, because I have golden. Is that okay?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't used it in a long time. I've just stuck with this Liquitex, and I tried doing the Liquitex thick gesso, and I hate it. So I'll be saving that for abstract paintings where you want to add the texture early, because I had a really hard time getting it to go on without just being really textural.
Can you tell me what size canvas that is?
16
Please?
inches, 16 inches by 20 inches, I believe.
Okay, I just bought some. Joanne had a whole bunch of canvases, 50% off.
Nice.
Who was it that you bought canvas? Did you buy canvas or boards?
All canvases for 50% off last weekend at Joanne Fabrics.
Oh, good grief.
But they do have that sale quite often, and you know, sometimes you can get like a pack of 10 really cheap. Which for me as a student is kind of perfect.
I didn't even know that Joann's sold canvases.
And Michael's too.
Yeah, Michael's has a sale like that quite often. They're not the best quality, but when you're doing student work, they're great.
That's a really pretty shade.
Yeah, it's nice. Now I'm almost thinking like, what if I just left it a little bit thicker? I'm taking it up. Oh, I kind of like that now.
That really looks beautiful. And even on this television, you know, on our computer monitor, it looks
It actually
beautiful.
looks a little better on the monitor because this is a lot brighter in the monitor than it is here. But I'm gonna go ahead and take a little bit of paint thinner to that, just a touch. So I just ripped off my paper towel, give it a little twist, and now I've got a very controllable little shape. Just gonna dip that in paint thinner. Then I dab it over here to just kind of get out a little bit of the extra. And now I'm just gonna take it to where I kind of imagine the sun kind of dip back behind. You see how it just adds that little bit of brightness. I'm not painting right up to the edge of the trees or anything, so I'm gonna let some of that red through. I'm gonna bring a little bit of that paint thinner down here to make the water just a touch brighter. Then I'll take another paper towel and I will blend where I just touch the edges because I don't want that just to have a feeling of a finger with paint thinner rubbing through. Kind of cool. Try it with a different light in the studio here. That's a good way to kind of test though, is just kind of go, yeah, that's that focal point is the focal point. That's where I wanted you to go, right? It's got the darkest shape, the tree versus the lightest shape. And then all the guidelines, look at all the angles, the clouds, the background trees, the water, everything is kind of radiating out towards it, isn't it? The other thing about this sky, what I was thinking was, so I kind of keep the momentum of the curves going a little bit. I'm going to take a Q-tip now. And I could bring my Q-tip in and like, if I wanted to have lighter areas in between the trees, I could a little bit, but I don't want too much. But I can pick up delicate and very small areas or help disrupt areas where it's kind of pooled in a little bit. But the one thing I want to do is I'm going to move this over so you can see it a little better. And I'll even zoom in, let me find the remote, is I'm gonna see how the blue has gone over the top of the white grasses in the foreground. I actually want those to be warm, like they're catching that little bit of light right here. And hopefully it'll be really nice because it's contrasted against the cool shadow of that bank, right? So that was kind of my thought of bringing these light grasses kind of up and in. Will add a little more interest, a little more motion. So let's zoom in. And what I'm going to do is take my different Q-tips, and I'm going to see if this one's already dirty. See if I need to get any paint thinner on there. I do. So I'm just going to barely dip that into paint thinner. Again, getting off the excess because I don't want a big run of paint thinner coming down when I first touch it. And I'm just gonna lightly touch these with paint thinner. It's not doing much now, but I'm gonna come back in with a clean Q-tip, and hopefully because of that paint thinner sitting on there for a second, it will pick up that cool paint. So just grab a clean one now and do the, basically repeat what I just did, but just this time hopefully pulling the paint up. We will see. It already got a little lighter, didn't it? And then what I would
Yes, it got bright there. I want to say your texture is just amazing in this painting.
Thank you. I had a good time cutting up a bunch more brushes. This one kind of, yeah, very sharp one. And anyways, yeah, I just chopped a bunch of more really strange shapes into my brushes. So now I've got quite the collection. And so instead of using one brush like I used to, and you get all this repetitive texture, I've got a whole bunch of them, and I can kind of think like, okay, this one, you know, is really long. Looks like it's flipping you off a little bit, but sorry guys. How rude, brush. But yeah, this one was really long bristles, so now I got this nice mark. Anyways, they're all different, and you know, you just kind of pay attention. So then I could take, you know, as thin a brush, as small a brush as I want to. And I, you know, typically I probably want this to dry a little bit, but I could, you know, just one of these little silly signature brushes I would use normally for a signature. Okay. Just kind of replace the cool colors that were there with some warmer colors as if it's catching that light. Let that sit for a second. And then do the same thing with a Q-tip if I want, so it's not just thick paint.
So are you adding Indian yellow and quinacridone red?
No, that's just quinacridone red at this point, because I don't have any Indian yellow on the painting yet. So I could easily bring in a little bit of Indian yellow if I think like I want this to actually be not just lighter, but a little bit warmer. And I'll kind of, you can also let that dry, right? And then glaze in with a little bit of Indian yellow. If I want to play it a little bit safer. I could also do that, and then where it's blue, I could bring the Indian yellow across the tops. Sorry, it's kind of hiding behind there. I could bring the Indian yellow across the tops where the light's hitting, just so it'd be on the tops of the grasses, and that would warm it up and turn it to green, right? I have lots of opportunities.
How long are you gonna wait to do that if you decided to?
I bet you I could probably do it pretty soon. It's so thin. So this is our 5th of 7 classes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Michael, I think it's only our second or something.
Okay. Never ending class, never ending color class. Well, so for the last two classes, typically what I like to do is kind of a bigger assignment, give you guys a little more time to use, put into practice some of the things we've learned. So we've, gone over a lot of different stuff, right? A lot of different color theories and different ideas, including the Zorn palette, the color temperature families, different things like that. So there's a lot you can explore. And maybe, each of us has kind of been drawn to different elements that you've learned. So I was kind of thinking it would be fun to slow it down, give you guys a couple weeks, but and see what you guys think here about doing my checklist. Since I did badly, I got to torture everybody, right? That's the system. But let's go through all the steps of drawing the thumbnails, gathering the information first, right? Remember the whole list: collect, plan, start the painting, collect, plan, test, start the painting, pre-mix colors, paint, all that list that I talked about at the beginning as I was airing my misery. And let's see what you guys think of going through all these steps to do kind of our best painting yet. No pressure. Let's zoom back out here. Yeah, I mean, I like what I have going on already. I could experiment with adding a little bit of Indian yellow in there, no problem, if you guys would like to see that, just to warm up this area just a touch. But I actually kind of like pink and purple versus pink, purple, orange, and yellow, which would quickly happen. I kind of like the, and maybe just for now I like it. I'm pretty safe to sit on it for a little bit. And see how it feels. What do you guys think? Would you guys like to see a little Indian yellow, or do you think I should kind of leave it as it is right now for a little bit?
I'd leave it.
Yeah, I can almost imagine a little Indian yellow in those clouds as they are right now.
It does kind of appear that way, doesn't it? It's so amazing what our eyes and brains do, filling in colors.
And remember, we're looking at the camera version of this.
Yeah.
So I'm suspecting those colors are less saturated in the real world than they are to us.
Maybe just on those foreground grasses.
What's that?
What if you added, I don't know, I wouldn't want to mess it up, but just a little Indian yellow on those foreground grasses that you just did, the little tall ones, and then remove it and see if it adds just a little extra warmth.
Yeah, but I don't think if the light source doesn't have it, if it would look super out of place.
Right.
Yeah.
All light is coming from there, plus reflected light from this cool sky. And it's interesting, your sky, this actually appears pretty blue up here in yours. But in mine, I've almost taken it all the way back to gray right now.
Well, so that's why it would be interesting to see the still photo when you post it.
Yeah.
In your copious spare time.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I think I'm gonna kind of leave it. So that's the other option, is next week is coming back in and kind of showing how I would add and finish these while you guys are working on your big project, as we would call it, right?
So the only problem with the big project is that I'm going to procrastinate for 2 weeks.
Well, you don't have that. So your homework, and this is not for next week. Your homework this week is this, which is kind of lucky for you, Laura, because that's already how you've been doing a lot of your assignments. But maybe
Twist my arm.
Yeah, do maybe something a little more glowy or something. Try something a little different. or just different colors. Try maybe just 2 colors like we did here or something else. You've got lots of experimenting you can do. Okay, so your homework for next week, and I know we still have a half hour. Don't worry, I'm not cutting you guys short. The homework for next week is to do a aerial color perspective painting. So starting with the stronger contrast coming forward, the mid value, all that I just talked about. And then if you would like to do it with glazing, like we did here, that's great. If you want to, get some acrylics out or however you want to do it. So that will be our homework for next week. Then the next class is where we would start going through the steps to building a successful foundation and painting, which, Laura, you said you would procrastinate, but there's enough steps there that even if you just did the first couple steps, because that really, there's so many times when I spend more time in the collecting of data and planning than I do in the painting. Again, if I get I know what I'm going to do and I get it designed and I get my values established and I pre-mix my colors, painting almost feels like I'm cheating. It almost, you know what I mean? I've taken out so much of the guesswork and so much of the heavy lifting that I get to do the fun part, where you get into more of the flow of painting, the brush work and the color mixing and the more instinctual parts of things. And that's what I want to kind of show and share with you, as well as just, again, learn from my mistakes of, this does feel like more work. And boy, I don't want to do all these stages. But when I do these stages, my odds of success are so much higher. And again, that go slow to go fast.
So you're saying that the homework for next week for the final painting is just to do the groundwork for it?
Yeah,
Okay.
truthfully, next week, I guess my only homework for next week is collect and gather references.
Okay,
So
no
by
thumbnails, no color tests.
Nope, none of that.
Okay.
Nope, your homework painting wise is what we did today. However you want to experiment with what you've learned and what I've showed. If you want to do kind of the glazing in, or if you would prefer to do it any way you want, but it's the depth and aerial perspective and colors in aerial perspective. That's what I would like you to do.
And by aerial, do you mean like atmospheric?
Yes, and that's the word I should be using, atmospheric. Thank you. Atmospheric perspective. And so like in this painting that we're looking at right now with the pinks and purples, I would come back in and gray all those trees down, cool those colors on the far trees. And as they come closer, they would get a little bit darker at the bases. I could bring out a little bit of information, where the edges of bushes are and maybe the tops of the trees with a little bit of reflected skylight coming down. And I will show you guys that next week a little more. And then as I come forward, again, my values get more extreme, more, the lights are lighter, the darks are darker, possibly, just depending on what's in light and what's in shadows. But the extremes between the lights and shadows are stronger as we come down towards the bottom of the painting as a general rule. Again, anything can be, you can play with that completely just to make to control the viewer a little bit. So yeah, homework this week is just to do something from today's assignment and gather information, gather your references for your final project, right? I don't really care where you get them. Even if you want to copy a master's painting, kind of like Michelle did earlier or anybody else, I just would suggest that it's not a direct copy, that you gather multiple references. Say, I'm going to use this, reference as my design. This reference is more of the mood and the feeling, and this reference as maybe the color scheme, something like that. Okay. So a number of references, getting a big, strong idea of kind of where you're hoping to take that painting. And then we'll talk about that next week. And I will be finishing or working on these, showing how, now that I've got this kind of underpainting, right? So I've got my design, I've got my values established, I've got my big colors. So I've got this kind of innate harmony and overall feeling. And then how do I bring paint into this now? Right, some actual oil paint on top. What would I shift? What would I change? I could definitely introduce some greens and some things like that. I would just want to remember what colors did I make this with. So I'd probably bring back my phthalo turquoise and my quinacridone red and make sure that those colors are in the mixtures that I would be kind of mixing to keep harmony. That makes sense?
Did you say you just used black and white for the underpainting?
Yeah, gray. Yeah. Black, white, mixed my own gray.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And Deb, if you really don't want to pick up acrylics, that's fine. You could literally do it with oils and just let them dry.
Yeah,
That's how I did it for years and years and years. Is I would do.
well, I might break down and do it in acrylic, okay?
I
You
think you
should
might
try it. You'll love it.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy the fact that it's so changeable. You know what I mean? You saw how I took out the whole horizon area on the second painting in that little sped up video. And it's basically just like having a pencil and an eraser that you can just quickly change things lighten or darken so fast because they dry so quick. Where with the oils, yeah, everything is a little bit more thoughtful and everything else, and then letting it set up if that's your form of your way of working. So yeah, anyways, it's just fun to try with. And again, it's a great tool for just doing some of your sketching and whatnot. So
Well, I've seen everybody do beautiful stuff with it. It's just, for me, it's like, okay, colored pencil first, then pastel, then oils, then pastel, now oils. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, acrylic? No.
yeah. The good thing is they all help each other.
That's right. But, it's like
But
crazy. It feels like I'm getting a little crazy. Well, that's okay too.
It'll keep your brain young. All that.
Deb, this is me talking here, Deb. When you use acrylics, it's very important that you have containers that have a lid or something to keep your paints moist with the sprayer, the mist, or they'll dry up on you.
yeah, you can actually set a paper towel down, spray the
Thank
paper
you.
towel, and then put your paints out on top of the paper towel.
Thanks for that reminder. I needed that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And if you have a brush you're not using, put it in water.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the nice thing too, is you're just using paint and water. So it's, fume free. It's what was I going to say? Oh yeah. And then I've just been keeping my extra paint when I clean up at the end in a Ziploc bag. And I just put a couple of mists of water in the Ziploc bag, squeeze out the air. And then I just cut the corner of the Ziploc bag and squeeze it back out. So there's definitely ways to keep it.
You got all that texture using acrylic, and did you use your funky brushes with the acrylic?
Yes, I did. Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing is I'm using a higher grade acrylic paint now too. So it's thicker. It's quite a bit thicker. So if I don't mix it with water, I mix it with water in the very beginning when I'm kind of putting out the big spaces, the big areas and covering big passages, but then the paint progressively gets thicker.
What paint product do you use for acrylic?
Let's go check. I think they're just Utrecht, but let's check.
I like golden heavy body.
There you go. Oh, I just used
Golden is fantastic.
they're just the Blick, but that's what I have that's the store that's nearby. But I did grab oops. But I did grab a whole box of them of all different qualities, like the really cheap ones. And I did grab the transparent red oxide. So I could do the glazing like I did in the other one with the acrylic too. Transparent yellow iron oxide as well. And I think I did that in one of the classes in the back in the past. And then I went ahead and got a neutral gray as well, but I've not opened it yet because I just make my own. So that might be just kind of a waste of a color, but
Do you
probably
think that,
good to tone the canvas with.
do you tend to prefer glazing with oils or with the acrylic now that you've worked with both?
I mean, the oils feel better and I know that I'll be building it up. So I kind of feel like the oils will attach better to the oils, but yeah, I mean, maybe the acrylics are a better idea. I don't know. I
I'm
don't have,
thinking of when you wipe away, is it a little
then
easier?
you're gonna have way more time with your oils.
Yeah, you can't wipe the acrylics away.
Excuse me, Michael,
The truth
I
is,
don't know where you would find that type of mister. I don't know what area of the store to find it in. you showed.
garden shop.
Oh,
Yeah, I bought it on Amazon. But it was almost every review I read was how much their plants love it.
What is the name of that, Mister, again?
I have the box right here, just threw it away. No, doesn't even have a name. It says 50% long spray than other bottle. It's from China and all the writing on the side is definitely broken English.
So you're basically using that to moisten the canvas before you apply the acrylic.
Or like a lot of these, zoom back into the sky. Okay, so that's as far in as I can zoom. So I was having a hard, when I was putting the paint, it was drying so quickly that I was getting these very brush stroke, staying. So by having that mister, I was able to then come through with a bigger, softer brush and just soften these edges. So it just gave me a little bit more time.
Very interesting. I need to try that.
I've been able to keep my mister for 42 years.
Nice. I'm sure my daughter will steal my mister well before that.
That it's a play on words,
Mister, I get it. The period. So yeah, I did grab these demo paintings from the previous weeks, and what a difference, right, of paint quality between the kind of more alla prima, not glazing, very thick, very textural paint. I don't know if you can even see. Let me put this other painting down in my other hand. It's hard to see, but like in this area, there's a huge amount of texture. That paint is actually getting quite thick in there.
Yep.
Yeah. And then if you watch the 1 hour demo that I posted on the this one as well, has some really thick, juicy paint, especially in the sky right here. And you can actually see the brush stroke, the brush hair strokes in the light. And then as we get back towards the top, it gets softer edges and lost edges and things like that. I'm going to zoom out because so
beautiful.
Oil paints are so nice because you can create that differentiation of hard edge, soft edge so much easier than with acrylics. But with the mister, I was able to kind of overcome that innate issue that acrylics have. Acrylics always feel much more structural, just because the strokes dry so quickly. And that's not the kind of painting style typically that I'm after with my paints. Yeah, I'd be curious, like what would happen if I would just glaze Indian yellow over the whole ground, grasses. So it'd all be like related, but it'd have the blue shadowy area, it'd get bluer, it'd get warmer. There's so much interesting things I can experiment with after this is dry. and then just glazing again on top. Maybe with the next glaze, I would add a touch of the medium into it. Or what I could do is take a bit of my Galkid gel after this is dry and put it on, just the Galkid gel, put it on, let it sit for about 5 minutes, and then I would wipe it back off. And what I would do is create this protective layer between this layer and the next layer, so that the Indian yellow or whatever colors I came back in with my next layer of glazing wouldn't absorb in. I wouldn't get that same staining property that I would get. Imagine it's like a very, very, very thin layer of glass over the top. So I can still move the paint. And if I mix the Indian yellow with a little bit of the solvent, I mean, not solvent, the medium, it'll adhere, it'll stick really well. And yeah, it'd be a nice way to create another transparent layer. It would allow me to manipulate it for a while. So yeah, if I put maybe in 2 or 3 days when this is fully dry, putting a very, very thin layer of the medium on there, letting it sit for 5 minutes, wiping it away. It'll have just a little bit on there. Let that fully dry for a day or two. Then I can come back in and glaze in again.
Is that a matte finish or satin?
It would be more of a shine, more of a gloss.
Michael, if you wanted to say in your foreground, especially that left part, if you wanted to have more texture, wouldn't the Neo Meglip give you that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so that if you want your glaze to actually have some texture, yeah, Neo Meglip, or even the either one of the gels also would kind of do the same. The Neo Meglip is more of like a gel than it is a fluid. It's fluid-like, it's got some motion to it, but it's definitely thicker than most of the medium fluids. That makes sense? And you don't want too much, you don't want to put on any of the mediums too thick. Otherwise, they kind of can do a weird wrinkling thing and stuff like that. So, all right. So I guess I've kind of decided those 2 paintings are where I'm going to leave them. Hopefully that was some good information as far as glazing. I'm going to do, I'm going to come back over here. Ta-da. And let's go quickly to our Facebook page to finish the day and quickly go through a couple paintings. Does that sound good? Anybody, any questions from today?
No, thank you.
All right. Are you guys seeing our Facebook page?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's take a peek. All right, Laura, I have not seen what you wrote here. Oh yeah, not feeling well. So yeah, why don't you tell us about this lady here?
Okay, you have to pardon my roofers. So a friend and I had decided we needed to brush up on our figurative painting, oil painting skills. So we were going to each do a painting from a photo. And then when the class assignment was a Zorn palette, I combined that with this. So this is a Zorn palette figure, was done on an acrylic underpainting. And while I was painting it, I kept repeating to myself, John Singer Sargent, John Singer Sargent, John Singer Sargent. And I think I succeeded in the lower left corner in channeling John Singer Sargent.
Yeah, and on her shoulders too, I can really see the color transitions from dark to light are really beautiful right through there.
Thank you.
How it goes
It's
from
beautiful.
dark to light, and then you see this gradation line from where the dark and the light meet. And imagine if this line here of the neck was the same darkness here, It just wouldn't read like it was in like. So anyways, really nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. John Singer Sargent and Joaquin Sorolla are both just masterful. And there's a lot of living artists too, who just, I mean, just go and look at their transitions. Look at, I love that little bit of red right here where it transitions out. Just when you're not looking at it really close, just feels like a little bit of glow. Yeah, your transitions from lights to darks are just fantastic within the garment.
Thank you.
Could play
I
that
do
up
need
a touch
do
more.
need to work on the face, my face foo.
It's nice though.
Great.
Something I want to point out really quickly, just for people who are considering portraiture, is look at the eyes here. Look at the whites of the eyes and how they're not white. So important. It's amazing how many people want to put white in here when the figure's in the shadows and stuff, just because we're so used to thinking the whites of the eyes, and all of a sudden you get these weird glowy eyes. So really nice. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
That you kept it nice and dark and everything. The flowers are beautiful, just nice and delicate. Little bit of a force field right here of the light. You might want to break that line up a touch.
Yeah. If you go to my album, you can see the photo refs and a couple other things.
Okay.
Did you put the little dots in her eyes for reflection? I can't tell from this distance.
I don't think I did. I tried, but it was a bit too, plus I'm just so unwieldy with an oil paint brush.
Yeah, and I don't think it needs to. That, I mean, normally the eyes are the focal point, and we still go there, but it's really not. It's about the the flowers and here, and I think if you put highlights in there, and I don't know if they would be catching any highlights really.
If you look at the photo ref, the whole face and that side of the figure was completely in shadow. So that's what what I was aiming at.
Did you mask any of those hairs, or just like beautiful the way there's just a few little wispy hairs?
And that's just lucky brushwork. That's like brushwork that looked a little sloppy and then leaving it alone for once. I wish I had the discipline to do that all the time.
So here's the black and white. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. And yeah, look, there's not much going on in there. That sounds bad. But, you know what I mean? There's no highlights and things. There's nothing reflecting back into it really, besides, kind of darker walls. But a little bit of light reflecting back into the cheeks and stuff. And of course, there's enough light reflecting back that she's not just in dark shadow. Yeah, so even in color, I mean, there's like a little highlight here, but if you put that, it'd look bad. Looks like you kind of surprised her with this photo.
You captured it really well.
And I like that you simplified the plants behind her and stuff like that too.
So I find that a really good resource for figurative subjects is screen captures from BBC period pieces, movies.
For sure. There's so many movies like that I think about that.
The lighting is always so dramatic. And
yeah, there's a movie director whose name I'm missing right now, but like, when I watch his movies, I don't even ever remember what they're about, because I'm always just looking at whoever he's getting to set his sets and light his sets are just so beautiful.
Yeah.
They're boring movies, but.
Anyway, thank you for your comments.
Yep.
And your appreciation.
Yeah, and I mean, if I was to look at that, I don't think I would even guess that was the Zorn palette. I would just think it's just nice and harmonious. You know what I mean? It's just.
Yeah, isn't it amazing?
Gorgeous. Yeah. Really.
Okay, so the one thing I discovered, here's a lesson learned. I was using an orangey orangey red, which as a replacement for CAD red light. And what I didn't realize until I was well into it is that when you mix that with the black, it doesn't make purple or mauve. It just goes straight to brown. So I had no way to really make a cool purple shadow. So that was kind of that was a lesson learned. So I'm going to start with a cooler red next time.
There you go. So back to discussion. Okay. Deb, did you just put this a second?
What did you just say?
Did you just post this picture this second? Yeah,
Not
yeah.
this second. I posted this morning. I reposted, I should say, I guess.
Okay. Great. All right. Tell us about this painting, please.
Well, not much to tell. The Zorn palette, I attempted it in using the Zorn palette, and I had done it as a pastel not very long ago, and of course, it was very chromatic compared to this. This look, I just utilized the Zorn palette. Nothing else big to say, except that it was quite a learning experience for me just to try and mix paints, first off in this class, and second off, try and paint alla prima, because that's not how I have painted really. So anyway, it's been a great learning experience. This whole thing has with you. So
Very nice. Well, it reads well. Your lights and darks are very strong. And it's fun. Like if we turn this into black and white, I bet these reds would appear much darker, but because it's high chroma versus low chroma, meaning, brighter colors versus dull colors and more extreme colors, it really shows up nicely and pulls in. I think I would like to see a little bit more red, kind of just so it's not one spot of red. Not maybe as extreme, but mixed in a little bit into some of these other colors, just a touch more, just so our eye moves a little more around. You definitely have a arrow shape right here, which is okay because it points us towards kind of, I'm guessing it's kind of more of the focal point area and stuff. And our eye definitely wants to kind of be in this area here, so nicely controlled. If you wanted, you could cool this area up here down a little bit. It's still reading fairly warm. If you wanted to push this back even further, it would just be more towards the gray.
but see, that's what I had a difficulty with, is there's really nothing to cool with except the black, and then I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly right.
exactly.
Maybe a little
But-
white.
Well, then it just gets kind of gray, but
That's what I mean, it
yeah,
would
I
go
would
towards
definitely like to have used a little more yellow, a little more blue and green.
Yeah. Well, and this, there's been Zorn palette paintings I've done in the past where I come back in and just add some color.
Yeah,
It's just because it's, an assignment doesn't mean you have to stop. You can do whatever you want
Well-
with it. It's your painting now.
that's right. But no, I mean, I wanted to experience that very limited attempt at an alla prima. So
Nicely
No,
played.
I personally love those colors. I think it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
well, thanks whoever said that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
really.
it was a hard assignment for me. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's difficult. And
Yeah.
anytime you're trying something new for the first time, it is definitely, it's always going to be difficult. There's always
It
a
was-
steep learning
yeah.
curve.
Yeah. Trying to get it done, alla primo is just, I mean, I could go back in now and do some more, but
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be alla prima by any means.
and see, but that's kind of how the class started. And I kind of took that challenge of keeping things minimal, the palette minimal, the alla prima, but it's good. It was a very good learning tool. I learned a lot.
Good job. You got an A+.
Well, thanks,
Yep.
teacher.
See right there, A+.
Thank you, teacher. It's a reflection on you.
Everybody gets an A+. All right, Denise, are you still here? There you are, Denise. Woo. All right, this does not look like a Zorn palette. Is that a Zorn palette?
That's just your, the mixes from your demo,
From which one?
the Coal Gallery,
Oh, okay, great, great, great.
and
I
it's
was gonna
not
say, if you did this
finished.
with- Okay, well, yeah, it's really coming along nice, got a nice feel. I think you could soften some of these clouds a little bit, so it's not so cut out feeling. If you wanted to, like this kind of lost edge here is nice. And you could leave like some areas of interest. I would almost urge you to maybe bring like this beautiful, beautiful thing that's going on up here a little more into the painting, because I really am drawn towards this corner. So, you know, just as far as controlling the viewer a little bit. Very nice. So it's very pretty. It's got a nice feel to it. I think you could maybe flatten, I don't know if you wanted a little bit, some of this horizon line a little bit, but all in all, I really like it. Yeah, it's got a great feel. I love your grays in your sky.
Yeah, I didn't finish it.
Oops, we lost you, Denise. You went
Oh,
on mute. There you go.
Okay, at the end of your demo, you showed that you put some fog in the background to make it lay back in space, and I haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay. Yep.
Just wanted you to know I've been working.
I appreciate it. A+.
Oh, thank you.
All right, Laura. A+.
Thank you.
Jill, let's see if you get an A+. Are you here, Jill?
Ooh,
Yep, I'm here.
All right, welcome. Gosh, yeah, this is so pretty. That really, those colors work so well with this
Yeah,
feeling.
it's fantastic.
They did. And the reference, I posted them kind of right after the other, but it jumped somewhere else. It's not,
Don't you just love Facebook?
yeah. So it's almost, it was already that palette pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, well,
And,
good job picking a reference.
Yeah,
that
well,
must-
I
that
was
must-
driving over to a friend's farm last year, and there was a whole stretch of road, and I took a ton of pictures. And I haven't had much success making one look decent until this one was I was pretty happy with the way it's going. It seems to be working.
Oops.
And,
yours is so much more enjoyable even to look at than this, just the grasses and the clouds and everything.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I've had the two things that I had trouble with the other ones was getting those spidery trees, because they always look too dark and too stiff. And then there was this swath of, land that was kind of boring. So I thought I'd.
Add a trail.
I think you did a really good, nice job with it.
Yeah, and looking at like this really intense red on top, like if I was looking at the reference, I wouldn't have thought to do that, but I actually really like it, how it plays just artistically against the grays. I just think it works well, even if it's not exactly maybe how I would have done it. I really like it. Yeah, it's lovely. I think this one deserves a frame and to go into a room where it would accent the colors or whatever. This is nice. It's a very decorative, beautiful little piece.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, one thing with the reds, like when I took the reference to grayscale, the reds were the same color as the gray, the same value as the gray.
Yeah, if I squint my eyes, yeah, they really want to disappear. So that's the fun of seeing, you know, even when I'm doing my value underpaintings, a lot of times, yeah, it wouldn't, you know, I would hardly paint in these areas because I know that it's going to be done chromatically, done with color.
So Jill, did you use like a teeny weeny brush very meticulously to get those trunks in? What's your secret there?
Actually, what I did was I put some in and I took, I'm not in my studio now, but I took one of those wipeout tools that's shaped like a pencil.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, I just kept scratching into it and going sideways and
Wow.
trying to break it up.
Yeah, great. I mean, that's such a good way to do it. And that's what I use my Q-tips for. And I also have some of those little edging tool things as well. So yeah, you know, that's just the thing, right? Is use what it takes. That's why I'm just such a not purist when it comes to art creation and painting, is just use the tools that it takes. You know, it's all about the end image, not about. Anyways, nicely played. Nicely played. And Laura, we talked about this. Are there any changes or anything here that you want to see?
What?
I'm back to.
Those are old. Those are old. Every time you post something in your album, it puts the album back in the discussion list, showing your oldest photos in the thumbnails. It's so
Okay.
dumb. So
It's
pay
just-
no attention to those.
Don't forget about me. All right, Karen. Very cool. Nice shapes. Is this your Zorn palette? Are you here still, Karen?
Yeah, it's a Zorn. Just
Wow,
playing
look
around.
how your greens are so green.
Yeah, it was weird. It looked like I was just painting gray on gray until I put some of that watery looking gray in there, and then it made the greens look green. So
I
that
think
was
it's
a
the-
fun.
It's the little
experiment.
bit of pink in there, actually, that's probably doing it.
Oh, is that what's doing it?
Yeah, so you get the color contrast that. Yeah, pinks will always make greens, or reds, oranges will always make greens feel greener.
Cool.
Nicely
Did
done.
you use acrylic under or all oil?
No, I used acrylic under to try to get some shapes.
Cool. Let's do something.
I like the tall grasses there that you had. Nice execution.
Oh, you guys are very kind. I love watching all of the stuff you guys are putting up. Definitely the newbie of the group.
All right. So nicely done. I love your shapes. These negatives and everything are very interesting. These are, you know, a little punchy, these holes, and a little repetitive in shape, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. What I want to do is I'm just going to grab a little bit of the grayish color from here. Grab my spray brush. About 30%, much bigger tool. And let's might be too light. I'm going to go ahead and undo that and bring it into about 15%. There we go. And I could make this bluer color-wise, would probably read better. This will help hopefully give us a little bit of a sense. Okay, so if we just squint our eyes, that's a pretty bullish way that I just did that. pretty heavy handed. I'm gonna lower the thing down to, let's say 8% and do the same here. All I'm doing is, you know, if you had lights in these, it would be kind of different, but since they're just kind of big, dark shapes. Right now, hopefully, again, I should have probably done them in a little bit bluer, but I just wanted to use the colors that you were using kind of. Hopefully that adds to a little bit more sense of depth. By just kind of lightening, graying. Again, it would be blue or gray, whatever. Just so they're not big, big, dark shapes. And however you want to do that, that hopefully, again, pretty ugly how I did it, but add a little bit of depth to the painting. You know, I could even come back in and pretend a couple of them are even further back. Does that give you a little bit of a sense of depth?
Yeah.
Because yeah, darks want to come forward, right?
Sorry, I'm gonna go back on mute just because the 3-year-old's on my lap.
Got it. Just going to kind of quickly go back, hopefully, to the beginning. It's not letting me go up higher. Back in time further. I don't know why. Huh. I don't know. Anyways, there you go. Now just an idea of what popped into my head there a little bit. All right, but otherwise, yeah, nice job. These really do want to kind of come forward and nice. I assume your light source is kind of back behind here. The sky tells us that, but unfortunately, I mean, I guess the edges of the trees do a little bit, but like, I'm not quite sure really where the light source is too much in the painting. Doesn't bother me too much. Again, it has nice shapes and nice feeling and flow, but if you wanted to kind of take it to the next level, those are a couple things I might consider. Like these bushes feel like the light's coming from the left. These grasses feel like the light's coming from behind us, like face lit a little bit. These grasses kind of feel like they're top lit. And then the sky is telling us that the light's probably coming from back there. So a little bit jumpy there. But anyways, guess what? You get an A equals. No, A plus.
Thank you so much. That's really good feedback. My husband just said over the back, like maybe B minus, but we're working on it.
All right. So B minus there. That's from your husband.
You just tell him you're going to order a new mister from China.
You guys are hilarious. I love it.
There. But wait until you see it next week. All right. And Carrie, hey, Carrie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. I haven't talked to you in a long time, it feels like.
Yeah.
Very nice. These colors are just gorgeous. Is this your color wheel that you did down on the bottom?
It is.
Oh my gosh. That is fantastic. It looks like you're looking straight down at a pencil.
Yeah, I can see that at the point.
Yep. Very, very cool. Okay, so we've got some opportunity in here still if we want. Very nice. These colors are really going together beautifully. I think that the main and maybe the only thing that it needs is actually some of the darker shadows. I think would really help give it some structure. This shadow area being so light, I'm just going to do what I did over there. Student work, da, da, da. Open that. Very nice. Yeah, if I kind of skim my eye, and I appreciate how you presented these. That's very nice and easy to look at. That's the big difference, right? Is you've got the big sense of the thing, but these strong shadows really do give this a little bit more structure. And when I turn it into black and white, we're going to really see the differences. And that is that, look at the difference in the darks to the sky over here. So we can really get a bit more structure, look at the trunks, the shadows. But otherwise, really nice. I appreciate the colors you've got in there, even though it's in black and white right now. And then let's also look at the contrast here on the light side of the tree. Even though it's much darker than the dark side of the tree, right? Look how dark it is compared to yours. So your value in the light side of the tree almost blends into the value of the sky, whereas it's a huge jump down here. You can totally say, I'm doing that on purpose. I wanted this to be a lighter color, lighter, valued tree. That's fine. But if you're wanting to replicate it a little more, it's kind of a great tool is to refer back to the value structure and to see what kind of contrast and values does the reference have versus where the painting is ending up. That makes sense?
It does. I think part of it is my light when I took the picture. I'm looking at it now and I see more dark in my painting than I do on the online picture.
Yeah.
But I was having a really hard time trying to make the tree look like it was getting a lot of light. I wasn't able to get a bright yellowy green.
Yeah, that is true with that Zorn palette. That can definitely be really difficult. Yeah, you're right.
But maybe I just need the darker to make the light highlight show up a little bit more. And I wondered about putting a little bit more orange in the foliage color.
Possibly, yeah, especially to harmonize with this really orange ground. You definitely probably could do some of that. Yeah, it's nice. I mean, you've got the idea for sure, and the colors are really interesting and beautiful. I like your brushwork. Yeah, I mean, I would just start with, possibly coming in and creating some stronger shadows a little bit in some of the area. And you could lighten some of the sky. That's another option. If you can't get this to go light enough, you can always lighten the sky behind it a little more if you want. Again, it's only depending on what you're after. As you know, I very rarely just try to replicate my reference. That's, especially when you're playing with odd colors that you can't you can't match the colors. But yeah, great. Love your color wheel, like the reference a lot. And I think this is really coming along nicely. Yeah, any questions at all?
No, as I'm looking at it, I see two legs underneath my tree. And so I think I see 2 feet sticking out. So I think I would change that. And it looked like in the reference picture that my shadow was a lot longer, but I was running out of space on my paper. And so this was just a rough draft on paper. And so if I was doing it on canvas, I would shift some things a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what's perfect, right? That's what's so good about doing these little sketches and stuff. And I mean, you zoomed way in, right? So
Right.
Your painting is basically like this little square here. So truthfully, I mean, that shadow would be shooting off the edge of the canvas.
Right.
So it kind of ends where this bush is. Great. nicely played. And the other thing is too, is like, this is more face lit. So like the light comes all the way over to this side. So you kind of change that where this is more side lit, which would cast a shadow more directly this way. So if you also wanted to bring a little more light
Okay.
into here and then darken that, maybe take the shadow off if you want. I mean, I'm not worried about the shadow, actually. It doesn't bother me. That's it. Those would be the quick things. Otherwise, be done. It's great. You've learned a lot from it, and you did what I wanted, which was just playing with the color. That was by far and away the main thing. So
Great. Thank you.
thank you. Oops, don't.
You know, you could also just put some shoes on the bottom of those trunks and then you'd have surrealism.
Yeah, some nice, I would say Converse probably.
That would be a really hip looking tree.
Exactly. Yeah. It'd be kind of funny too. 'Cause it's just walking right off the scene. Anybody else? Oh, nope, there's Karen's again. Nice color wheel, Karen. Nice portrait going on there. Oh, Michelle, look at that. All right, Michelle, you still around?
I am.
Hey, all right, tell us what you got going on here.
That is my Zorn palette number 1. And I really didn't like those colors necessarily. I don't think the yellow ochre gave me that sunshine color but I'm hoping to maybe try something similar with my Zorn palette number 2. And yeah, that's, I was thinking about things you would talk about. I'm not really super pleased with the lay of the land in the background, but I tried.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely think it's doing kind of what it's mostly supposed to be doing. I think if you bring the yellow ochre over now that it's dry, you'll have a lot more success making warmth. I think it was just getting way grayed down constantly, mixing with your black. The other thing is this actually looks like a black tree versus tree in shadow.
Oh, I thought it was green.
Oh, or green. It does. It just looks like a separate tree. And maybe I
That's
guess
how
it
it is in the photo, I thought, in the reference photo.
It could be. I don't remember. So anyways, that's, yeah.
I think it was your reference. You painted it.
Yeah, totally.
That's why it's so hard to paint from photos of trees, because you can't really tell where one tree ends and the next tree begins.
I actually used your, yeah. Well, I see there is a little bit of orange up there, but
I just tried to make it look like one big bunch of mass so that this was kind of blending into that as a shadow. Whether or not I was successful, I don't know. But yeah, I think you can definitely lighten yours up a little bit if you want to go back into it real quickly. You know, especially if it is kind of dry.
yeah.
But that's up to you. Do you have Zorn number 2 up?
I made the palettes, but I didn't get a chance because of the way the week went to get to that second one.
Great. Oh, and I see there you go, Deb, way back there. Well, nice job editing down.
Oh, yeah, that's my photo reference. And for some reason, Facebook decided that, you know, even though it went with my painting, I just like, you know, decided they were going to, yeah, I cropped way in there.
Yeah.
I mean, way in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting how the light's working. It's like a spotlight right in here somehow. I mean, just by this cast shadow. Oh no, the light's on this side of the trunk. So the light's coming from over to the right.
Yeah, from over to the right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Leading
Yeah.
down in.
Huh.
I exaggerated the tree on the left. I wanted, you know, with the orange color.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, let's go take a break for lunch and a
Wait,
long one.
there's one more painting that you didn't go through, right? Kathleen's
Where's Kathleen?
down.
Oh yeah.
That
Yeah,
one.
I just commented on it on the class. So yeah, Kathleen, are you still here?
Yeah, that's supposed to be snow.
It is snow. Okay.
Yeah, and I've got a little bit of, more stuff to do on it. It's not done. I like my other one better that I did. This is really Zoran. It's just, that mixed Mars black and ivory black in one tube from Utrecht is the only black I had. And then I used gold ochre, and then I used cadmium red light.
So it seems like people are getting more play with the gold ochre. Like that's a nicer color that kind of opens up the range a little more. I mean, this has a great feel to it. I mean, the harmony is really locked in. It's very nice.
It looks so Japanese for some reason. I don't know what it's.
Yeah, it kind of does have
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, this one's about design for sure.
Yes, it's really, it just has so much design. Gosh, it's amazing.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Very nice. Yeah, and I'm glad you told me it's snow. It's interesting. I'm not sure the hills really feel snow covered.
No, they don't. I've got more to do on it, but that one I actually used, except for the gold ochre. My yellow ochre was so brown, and it just made everything really dull. So
Yeah,
it was a Winsor Newton, and a really old tube, and wasn't a good tube. Jennifer Deal told me, because I had a whole set of Winsor Newton, and I thought I was doing well. And then I took a color class from her, and I couldn't mix the colors she wanted. And she came over and she said, "Oh, you just take this and this." And then she's like, "Oh," she couldn't mix it either. She said, "What kind of paints are you using?" And I told her Winsor Newton, and she said, "Oh, those are student grade. No wonder."
yeah,
And
they're
I-
even almost less than student grade. Those are the worst paints. Like that's kind of a offhanded joke that painters will say to each other, "Oh, you're using Winsor Newton." Like kind of like it's not your fault. The paints.
Well, because they're such a good brand in watercolor, I thought they'd be a good brand in oils. So,
And they
yeah.
may have a better higher grade paint, but yeah, their student quality paints are really lousy. Their cadmium colors are so dull as well. So yeah, but anyway, I mean it kind of, anyways, nicely played. For the rest of everybody, just because we're already a half hour long here, I commented on pretty much everybody's as was posted here. Janelle, haven't seen Janelle, but this is so pretty. Nice.
It's pretty.
Janelle. I love
That's beautiful.
the lost hill back here and stuff. I think this dark could probably come through a little more, or a little more light, a little lower, because it kind of looks like it's bumping into the hill and stopping there. But yeah, very nice. Lots of
Used ochre and burnt sienna and Payne's gray. That's interesting.
and water mixable. Nice job. And flake white is a nice, flake white's great. It's just a slightly warmer white a lot of times. Flake white's great, especially if you do portraiture. And there's the collection. All right, I think I'm just going to leave it there for today. If I missed anybody and I didn't leave a comment, let me know. Not purposeful at all. Great work, you guys. Wait, I'm just so appreciative of everybody just taking on the challenges that I keep presenting to you, and sharing what's happening. And I look forward to next week. And so atmospheric perspective colors, foreground, middle ground, background, as well as if you want to experiment with glazing at all, that's for you. And gathering references and beginning to think about, so it's not such a big surprise, our final 2 weeks. If anybody wrote down the homework that I've just mentioned, if you wouldn't mind putting it onto the Facebook page, I would appreciate it for the students that weren't here.
Michael, would you clarify a little bit about when we're gathering the information for our final assignment? You said to look for some sort of way to express this is my design, this is my mood, this is my color scheme, and it'd be 3 different things. By design, do you mean like this is my composition, or do you mean this
Yeah,
is
composition.
thumbnail, or?
Compositional design, kind of what is the big kind of overarching design, and if it's you're making it up or if it's based on a reference, either way, you don't really have to do any kind of physical work towards it. I just want you to start thinking about it and gathering up reference information.
Okay, so we don't have to do thumbnails about the design.
No,
or
we'll start doing that next week.
Okay,
So we'll be working through it together. So I'll give myself a little bit of time to think about that as well. All right, you guys, anything else? Any parting words? Hopefully you enjoyed the class. I had another great time. I always do. And thank you for the feedback. Thank you for listening to me in the beginning. Yeah, I will see you guys in a week.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye.